Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is match preview showtime as Neil Harris's men attempt to score a goal and attempt to win a football match this coming Saturday as we take on Sutton United. I am pleased to say I am joined by Mike of @Sutton Podcast. You can go and check them out on Twitter. I'm going to let Mike explain the very clever naming of this podcast because he's just told me and I've forgotten already.
Yeah,
Sutton
clever.
United Talk Time On Podcast.
That's it. You've
There we
got to
go.
do
I did it. That's a
you've got
lot
to do the
cleverer
air
than Gills in
quotes
the
when you
Blood.
say clever name. You
Like
air
that.
quote, clever.
Clever name.
Yeah.
So, no, fair play. There's a lot more
Yeah.
thought has gone into that than went
Yeah.
into Gills in the Blood.
Yeah.
Are you well, first of all? And
I'm very well. Yourself?
football aside, I'm all right.
Good.
Like we've already said, nothing that a goal or a win wouldn't cure. But we shall see.
Yeah.
Right, let's crack on straight into the
Yeah.
show. We're going to have a look at last six in the league for both sides, and then I'll break it down a bit further. So, Gills, it's just 2 defeats in the last six in the league, but there is no win. So it's 4 points from 18 available, a lot of draws, not a lot of goals. So plenty of nil-nils. Sutton, been fairly decent over the last half dozen. It's 10 points from 18 available. So it's a trio of wins, 2 defeats and a solitary draw. If we look at the home and away form, though, it hopefully, as we do have to really strive to find positives as Gills fans at the moment, it might make the playing field a little bit more even. Gills at home have played 5 in the league this season. There's 1 win, 2 draws and 2 defeats. So it's 5 points from 15. Sutton on the road, not great. 1 draw, 3 defeats, Mike. So is that something we can target?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm sorry. Those stats, they tell a story, but not the whole story.
Oh, of course, which is why we get you on to tell us how the performances were.
Every game, including Salford at home, every one of those games we've walked away going, how did we not get a result there?
Right, okay.
It's none of the games have we ever gone, oh yeah, we were absolutely battered there. Swindon, we were well up, and our goalkeeper let one through his legs, which is a bad mistake to make, but it let them back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a horrible ricochet off a defender, and it landed at Johnny Williams' feet in the penalty box. And you're like, yeah, of course, you want Johnny Williams to have a free shot at goal. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's one of the players that you don't want it landing to.
No problem there. So we managed to throw that one away from a really good position. Salford at home, I know that was at home, that's not your question, but we were 1-0 up, coasting. I wasn't 100% sure we deserved the 1-0. I thought if it was a 0-0 game that on Saturday, it would have been a highly praised 0-0. It was dull. It was dull. And we managed to nick a goal.
You can't come on here, Mike, and start telling us about.
Yeah, sorry.
Come on.
Come
on. You've got to earn the right. You've got to earn the right.
But we then, our striker, who's normally quite placid, decided to kick out a defender off the ball, get a red card, and just completely lifted Salford, and we managed to throw that away. And it's just been the story all the way through. We threw away a lead at Doncaster. We should have put Crewe away. We should have put Grimsby away. So every single one of them, we've come away going, we should be a good few points better off here. So we're kind of hoping that this might end our bad away game run.
Yeah, I'd imagine if you wanted to handpick a side to go to at the moment, there's probably only 2 or 3 teams, and I'm sure we'd fall into that category.
We'll have a 5-5 draw or something like that.
I'm still classing the 6-5 penalty shootout winning the League Cup against Exeter as an 11-goal thriller.
Yeah, absolutely. You only had to be there for the last 10 minutes of it.
That was it. Yeah, don't bother for the first hour and a half. Just turn up at 9:30, 20 to 10, and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I took my 8-year-old daughter. That was the first time she'd been to a game, and she was like, "Oh, this is easy," and I was thinking, "Nah."
Yeah,
the naivety of youth.
Yeah, bringing them for their first game is a real big choice.
She went, "This is the biggest stadium in the world," and I thought, "Oh, you've got a lot to learn."
Wait till she comes to our little place.
Right. I've written down a couple of other bits as well. Looking at clean sheets, that type of thing. Gills have kept 6 in all competitions. Sutton's force is not a great deal of difference, but again, only 1 on the road for you at the moment. But you've already gone into detail and explained that you're a lot better than that, and you're going to turn us over essentially. I think I'm just desperately looking for positives. I've written down 5 of our 7 points have come at the Priestfield, and 1 of your 14 points has come away from home. So desperately finding straws to clutch at from a Gills perspective. But I want to talk about Sutton. Obviously, that's the reason to get you on. I've written Sutton United, and then in big letters into the EFL. 3rd season now. Second season. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Matt Gray, the manager. Took over as caretaker, so he almost, and put me right if I'm wrong, essentially stumbled upon him. He took the job, I think, full-time start of the 2019-20 season. It's been fairly okay since then. I looked 46% win ratio over 160 plus games. It is a phenomenal start to his managerial career. I've written down, did you expect it to go that well? How much has he exceeded expectations?
He came in as a coach, and it coincided with a bit of a downturn under the old manager, Paul Doswell, who'd been with us for about 11 years. And it coincided with a bit of a downturn. So there was a lot of sort of fingers pointed. When Dos kind of decided he couldn't do it anymore, it did come as a bit of a shock, because it was like, whoa, hang on, we hadn't really planned for this. And Dos himself kind of said, you've got your manager already. Matt's a great manager. He'd never actually managed before. He'd been assistant manager and so on. I think he said himself he wasn't looking to step up at that point, because he's been around for, I've said this to him, so it's no secret. He's been around forever. He's always been around, but he had to retire quite young. So that's why he's been around for such a long time.
Sure.
When he got the job, there were quite a few people not overly happy, because they seemed to think it was a safe, easy option for him to have the job. The cheap option. I mentioned this to Bruce, the chairman, who is a very, very nice guy, and he nearly bit my head off. And he said, I don't see how a manager with no proven track record is a safe option. It was like,
it's a fair point. It's almost the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, he said, I had other managers, well-known names I could have gone with, but so I just kind of was, sorry, Bruce, yeah. But when he came in, he did have a real difficult start. And I think it was terrible with stats, but I think there was a good few sort of 13 games or so, somebody he didn't get a win. But what he did is he was in the bar with the fans, talking to people, quite open, quite happy with what he's trying to do, and there was no hiding. And again, to the chairman, he said there was no. Matt's even asked the chairman, was there any point I was going to get sacked in that period? And the chairman was like, why would you? You're still dealing with someone else's players. You haven't had a chance to build your own team. As an aside, we've just discovered that Matt's something like the 12th longest serving manager in the EFL, which is really strange to us, because he's only been here a little bit of time. I think it's come like 3 and a bit years, but that's, I suppose, the way the world is in the EFL.
It says a lot about the modern game, doesn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, then we had the greatest season we've ever had in COVID, and none of us could come and watch it, which was really odd, because obviously we're non-league fans, and we go to our team. Our team's never on the telly. It's really rare. So when we're on the telly, it's a big game. We've often recorded it because we're like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah, of course.
And then suddenly we're watching our players on the screens where you've had the iFollow service and whatnot. It's like, this is just really odd. This isn't how Sutton's supposed to be. And they were winning game after game after game. They were relentless in that National League season. And then the final game at home, where we had to beat Hartlepool to win the title. I say this so often, it's boring, but it's a really odd game. They had the TV cameras there, but anyone watching it must have thought, does Sutton not know they could win the title here? Because the place was silent. It was really, really quiet. I mean, it was one of the first matches back after COVID, so it was just a whole weird experience. But it took to the second goal to make us suddenly go, hang on a minute, I think we've just won this.
Yeah,
and then all the emotions started coming out. It was a bit mental. He can do no wrong. There's an awful lot of, as I've said before, there's a lot of deleted social media posts saying we don't want him to. Yeah, he's the greatest manager ever. But yeah, he can kind of do no wrong. He's really open and honest. Anyone can approach him and ask him any questions. He really engages with fans. He does that great little thing, like before the match, he does a little walk around on the warm up. He'll always say hello to people like he's known them for years, whether it's the first time he's ever seen them. He's, oh, hiya, mate, you all right? Yeah. Talks to all the kids. And as soon as you talk to the kids, you're like, you've hooked that kid in forever now.
It's coming back. They're coming back.
This is a great plan. That kid's like, my mate, I love him. So I don't know what other managers do, but he for us, he's just brilliant. He's effective. It might not be the most attractive football in the world. A lot of people are saying it's a very rigid 4-4-2 with big nasty brutes. But there's no fakeness with us. We're just who we are. We're a small little Sutton United.
If you're winning and if you're doing well and winning football matches, people tend not to worry about how you're doing it, do you? That's the thing. But
it's only when
that was levelled at Gills, back in the late 90s when we got into the Championship, and it was, agricultural centre halves that were kicking everyone, and then you had 2 goal scorers, and everyone else worked hard essentially, and it worked a treat. You
hear it on Sunday mornings as well. We used to run a Sunday team, and that's all they've got. And my point was, if that's all we've got, it should be pretty easy to work out what we're going to do and stop it.
Opposition if they can't stop it. Under Steve Evans more recently. Under Steve Evans, it was all they do is hit it to the big target man and go from there. If it's that easy to play against, then
stop it. Yeah, he's only got a left foot. Then you know what foot he's putting it on.
Put him on his right, don't show him on his left. It's not rocket science. There was a manager years ago when it said that I think football's a simple game, but it gets made complicated by Wallies or something along the lines. Exactly. Don't quote me on that. That might not be quite it, but you get.
But people do make it more complicated than it really needs to be. It's like
I think we all do now in the modern game, unfortunately, with so many games, especially like the likes of Football Manager and that, and hipsters and all that type of thing. It does become a little bit more complicated, but it's been a great journey for Matt Gray and Sutton over the last, like you say, 3 or so years. Because no disrespect, but from an outside perspective, looking in, for me, if you think of Sutton United, you think Coventry City 1989 and a lot more, not a lot more, because like you've said, we're never on the telly. We're little Sutton. We go and watch our team live. We don't get on the box because we're at our level, whatever that is. But now all of a sudden your level's improved. So now people are taking note. So for me as an outsider, if you Google Sutton United, you expect the Coventry Cup upset to come up. But now, obviously, there's people writing new chapters and new memories, essentially. I wanted to go on, carry on.
So, we had Arsenal last year as well. Not Arsenal, 2017. That was another good run in the Cup, but we were known for Cups. So when we made it to the league, we had a little T-shirt printed up, a little dig at AFC Wimbledon. I think they had a T-shirt printed up, said it only took us 8 years or 9 years or whatever it was. So we had a T-shirt printed up with it only took us 123 years. Because we've been a non-league team all our life. We don't care.
I'm hoping we won't be soon. You finished 8th last season, and you got to the highly esteemed, whatever it's called now.
We don't mind it.
Was it still the Papa John's last season?
Pizza Cup.
The stuffed crust, as we like to call it. Yeah. So, but day out at Wembley's a day out at Wembley, and again, from where you've come from. Just how much, and we've asked the question about Matt Gray, how much did you overachieve essentially last season? What was the aim sort of when you came into
so the aim,
accommodation, staying up?
50 points. I mean, the joke is when Matt got the job full time, his brief was to keep us in the National League. And so the chairman did kind of quietly say, well, has he actually succeeded? Because we're not in the National League anymore. But so when we went up, the fans of Sutton are generally quite sensible. 50 points. Once we got to 50 points, we'll talk a bit more.
And then we'll see where we go,
And again, it just reset this season. So you'll just hear everyone talking about 50 points again. And we did brilliantly. And we raced something at 46. Then we had a little bit of a wobble. But we were in the playoffs the whole way through. We did have a bit of a struggle because our squad is quite small. And we had a few injuries. There was a game at Swindon last year where I think we had 2 reserve keepers on the bench, a 40-year-old fitness coach and an 18-year-old academy player, and that was it. And we'd had to call someone back from loan in the Conference South to play in midfield. We had a striker playing in midfield. So it's like this, when people talk about bare bones, this is what they need to be showing. We did overachieve, but it wasn't one of those, oh my God, how are we there? We just were like, this is just really weird. We should have done this years ago if we knew it was going to be like this. The Pizza Cup, we understand, and we know why people don't like it. For us, there was a little bit of how much money do we get for a win on this? Okay, we'll be all over this. And also, we don't know the competition in any other format. So
no, it's all new to you,
where a lot of people are saying, well, we don't like this format. We're like, we've got nothing to compare it to. So it's fine for us. And the 2 under-21s teams that we've had to play, we've beaten. So it's like, great, let them in, it's fine.
Exactly, got to play you every week. That's fine.
But Wembley was a big day. It was our first trip in Wembley for 40 years, so there was not that many people that had been there before.
Sure.
It was a really strange experience. It was the most money I've ever paid for a Sutton United seat, and didn't sit in it at all.
No.
It was just like, why have I paid for this? But yeah, the whole thing was just really surreal. We took it really to the last second. I think it was 90 seconds. And I was standing there and literally realizing the whistle was about to go. I'm standing in a bright yellow coat behind the goal, and there's going to be tears any second now, and I can't stop it. And then they scored, and I'm like, okay, I'd rather have those tears back again. Thank you very much. I'll have the Sky cameras on me laughing at me. I don't care. But yeah, we knew as soon as it was going to extra time, there was no chance for us because we were just all dead on our feet.
Sure.
But it's one of those underdog stories. If we'd won, it had been too easy. So
yeah, we had similar again back in '99 when we were 2-0 up with 5 minutes of injury time to play against Manchester City, and look at the difference in the two clubs now. It's frightening. But yeah, and then we lost on penalties, but we had a similar feeling when the second goal went in. You thought that's killed us because we were literally one hand on the trophy, and then to have it all taken away. But we've spoken about it, and it probably did us a favour in hindsight. We went up a year later, and we were much more better prepared, and we ended up having 5 good years in what is now the Championship. And yeah, but it seems but a distant memory at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, we also finished 1 point outside the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I've written that down. Trophy final and 8th place is an incredible season.
76 points, which I'm told is the highest number of points to not get into the playoffs since it started. I'm not 100% where we were if we'd made it into the playoffs, how we would have done over 2 legs. But again, it's like, okay, it's not happened. It's a great story. Let's now get 50 points again and
start again from there and see where we go again.
Yeah.
The last point I've got before we get on to the sort of nitty-gritty in terms of what you think the team will be come Saturday afternoon and that type of thing, Mike, is was it David Ajaboy was one of your best players last season?
Yeah.
Went to Peterborough for an undisclosed fee in the summer. 43 games, 8 goals and 6 assists. Now, obviously, I did a season preview video back in the summer, and it's always tricky to gauge because you're doing it early in a transfer window. So there's a lot of still questions to be answered and that type of thing. I'll be completely honest. I had you as one of them clubs that might struggle a bit this season purely because there might be sort of a drop off after being so close twice, to the playoffs, like you said, and then being essentially half a minute away from winning a trophy. You seem to have coped brilliantly without him and others. And you've mentioned this rigid 4-4-2. Is it just a case of the fact that Matt Gray's got his squad so drilled that whoever comes into any position, they know what they've got to do, they know their job, and essentially the quality then doesn't drop too much collectively more than maybe individually?
We're a team. It's a lot of times you do these things, people go, okay, so who should we be looking out for? I always feel like a liar because I ask the question on my podcast, but when people say it to me, I'm like, I honestly can't tell you because I can tell you to look out for this player, David Ajaboy, and then suddenly Will Randall on the other ring will have a great day. And it'll make me look like a complete liar because he hasn't had a good game, but he has. So collectively, I don't think any player last year scored 10. I think maybe if someone scored 10, it was one player.
And the rest all chipped
but
in.
The goals were all spread around. So the loss of one player did kind of confuse us because a lot of people had us down for relegation based on that. And we're like, okay, Dave was a great player, and he's one of those players that as soon as he gets the ball, you're like, what's going on? But as you say, he's only involved in 14 goals. So it isn't really that big a loss. We did have a fairly big loss with the goalkeeper, Dean Bizanis.
You said goals there, Gills fans. Goals.
Dean Bizanis was a big influence. He was a big player. But even he had his critics at the start of the season, but then he left. And again, that was like, oh God, what are we going to do? But all the recruitment, Matt and his team are really good at their recruitment, and they get players in who want to prove themselves, who are desperate to play. And we've got this young guy from Luton, and I know you're not supposed to fall in love with lone players. I absolutely get that. But he has just been brilliant. And I went early with, I think he could be better for us than Dave was. And Josh Neufville has been absolutely amazing. And honestly, he gets the ball at his feet, and you get that exact same feeling of everyone sitting forward going, go on, do something. So you've got him playing. So he's kind of mitigated the loss to Dave. We've now got 2 fairly good goalkeepers come in. So Jack Rose came in at the start, had a bit of criticism, but he was in team of the week for 3 of the first 5 games. So it's like, well, what are you criticising? He's obviously a good keeper. And then we've got Lewis Ward, who's just come in from Swindon. So he had a few big games from Swindon last year. And but I think they signed a lone goalkeeper who was told he's going to be number 1. So Lewis Ward was like, well, hang on a minute, where's that leave me? So the recruitment, I think, possibly not the top level, but possibly the recruitment has been, every single player we've brought in has been slightly better than people we've let go.
Which almost count as losing Ajiboye as an individual. You've collectively got stronger still.
So, but yeah, lots of people were saying we're going to be really relegation fodder, and we're like, okay, well, I don't think we will, because I'm sure there's teams in this division that are worse than us, but we'll just work at it. No, there's some horrible teams. I mean, last year when we played Scunthorpe, it was the first time. And bear in mind, we played at teams like Canvey Island, Braintree, and all that. And it was the first time I've ever gone to a game going, I really feel for their supporters, because that team just didn't care. The players just clearly just wanted the game out of the way and to go home. It was the first time I really felt that about other team supporters. Usually I'm just like, watch my team go home and crack on.
That's it, yeah. Exactly. Let them worry about themselves, yeah.
But yeah, there's some teams that their sole aim in this division is to not finish in the bottom 2, and that's it.
There's rumblings of that. A lot of fans are saying, obviously, because our chairman's gone AWOL and put someone else in charge, and there's a lot of whispers saying, is that what we're doing? Are we essentially setting up to maybe just not get relegated, and then the hope is that we get some investment or we sell? It's a risky game to play. That's all I'd say. Whether that is right or wrong, and I don't know anything. I'm not, just because I run a YouTube channel, I'm sure you get it as well. It doesn't mean I'm in the know and I get a load of information before everyone else. I find out generally the same time as everyone else.
Exactly.
Saturday, 3 o'clock. Well, 2 o'clock. The team news comes out. What's your 4-4-2 going to be then? Who's in?
So we have got actually a few injuries. So we lost. He was player of the year. He swept the board last year, and he was one of the players I was like, I hope we get to kick off the season with him, Ben Goodliff, and he got injured in the first half of the opening day of the season, and he's out January, February, they're saying. So so it's a big one. So we've also got Ali Smith, who was the guy who scored 9-10 goals last year. Brilliant young midfielder, really tall, great player, and there's been something slightly off with him all season, but then I was saying, well, that's because we've set the bar really high for him. But it was just announced that I think some cartilage is taken away from the bone, so he's going to be out for months. And then Will Randall, the winger who had a great pre-season, came in and then had another great couple of games, scored 2 against Swindon.
Sure. Was he out of contract at the end of last season, Will Randall?
If he was, he signed back on with
signed
us.
A new deal. I'm sure I was looking when I was doing like a potential targets thing,
right
at the start of the window, essentially like a month after the season ended. I'm sure he was one that I looked at as a potential wide man for Gills. So it's great to know that he's doing well.
Yeah, but
I'm
he's
available for scouting roles if anyone's watching. I'm cheap as well.
But yeah, so I reckon Jack Rose, the goalkeeper, came in, did well. He got a knock on Saturday, so Lewis Ward will probably be in goal, because he didn't do an awful lot wrong on Saturday. Yes, we lost 2 late goals, but it wasn't really a lot he could do. We'll have Kobe Rowe and Louis John probably in central defence, because the options. Joe Kizzy on the right. The left would be interesting, because we've had John Barden playing on the left the last couple of games because of injuries. He hasn't done bad, but he's a right back / central midfielder by trade.
Right.
So we'll probably, hopefully, get Rob Milson back in the team, who's been around. Again, he's been around for donkeys. He was at Fulham, Aberdeen, all sorts of places. So it's only 34, 35, but it seems, again, he seems to be playing forever. Depends on how he gets through this week. Then in midfield, it'll probably be Eastman and Buteman. Again, 2 players that have been around forever. We looked up Eastman the other day because no one believed me when I said he's only 31. They were like, no, he can't be 31.
Yeah, he's one of them that he seemed like he made his debut at 35.
yeah. So he's been around forever. So he's a good, solid player. Everyone loves him as well. Then on the wings, you've got who's going to play? Probably be Enzio and Josh Nerfield, depending on where Will is. If Will's fit, it'll be Will and Josh.
Yeah, okay.
We've also got Luke Gambin, but I'm not sure he's going to be a starter for us at the moment. And then up front, you've got quite a few choices. But of Omar Begill, I suspect, with one, it won't be Donovan Wilson because he got a red card.
Suspended, yeah.
I'm fairly certain we're not going to be able to appeal this as the red card because Matt came out in an interview and went, "Yeah, Donovan's admitted what he did to me in the change room." It's like, Matt, shush, don't say that.
Oh.
If it's not caught on camera, surely. But yeah, so we will either have the guys come through our academy killing Colasi, but I think he's more of the bigger man.
Mm-hmm.
Or we'll have Charlie Kendall, who got on loan from Lincoln, or another guy who was just a complete wild card for us. One of our players' agents just contacted and said, "Oh, you should see this kid. He's just left Loughborough University, finished his studies, and he's available. Should I bring him down for training?" And we're like, "Yeah, go on, bring him down and make up the numbers." And then Matt was like, "Yeah, we'll sign him up." So Tope Fedahunzi, he's already scored 3 goals for us. But he got injured a little while ago, so not really sure where he is with that. So potentially, I think it will be Omar and probably Charlie Kendall starting.
Okay.
But Matt doesn't tell me these things, so I never get a good result on FanHub.
Yeah, I always struggle on that. I'm always asking about. People think I know a lot, and then I get an 11 out of 11. They're like, "Who told you?" And I'm like, "No, I just got lucky."
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a couple of injuries as well. Ollie Lee's had tendonitis in his knee, unfortunately, after playing on essentially concrete throughout pre-season. So he's been missing for the last 4. And Neil Harris has said that we haven't got a date, unfortunately, as well. So Dom Jeffries is back training, but he's only played 2 halves of football so far. He did that naive kid thing, wanted to play opening day, had a problem, aggravated it, came back a month later, aggravated it, hasn't been seen since. But he's the type of player we need. We've looked so pedestrian, especially last Saturday. We had Sean Williams and Stuart O'Keefe in the middle of the park, Ben Reeves in front, and they're all technically very good, but they're all the wrong side of 30. And we just look very pedestrian. We need someone with a bit of energy and a bit of legs in there. So hopefully Dom Jeffries can be at least fit enough for the bench. And Stuart O'Keefe went off with a tight calf as well, our captain, against Hartlepool. So there's question marks over him. Obviously, we're recording Wednesday evening, so we've not had any type of press conference from the clubs yet. So it's a little bit of guesswork. If he's not fit for me, then I'd go Glenn Morris in goal. I'd go a variation of 4-4-2 and match up. Number one, it gets us more players further forward, and we desperately need to start scoring goals to give us a chance of winning football matches. So I'd make a couple of changes from last weekend. I'd move Will Wright to right back, even though he was very good at centre back. Max Emar retains his place. I'll bring Elkan Baggott back in from. He's been on international duty with Indonesia, and Ryan Law retains his place for me at left back. Jordan Green, I think we need to get back in the side. He was very good pre-season, started the campaign really well. He's just gone right off the ball. I think he had a hip problem in a trophy game and then has barely played. But I'd get him back in from the right and Haki Badelican from the left. I'd move Robbie McKenzie, one of those players that you need who can play pretty much anywhere, into the middle of the park to try and give us some more mobility alongside Sean Williams. And then I'd have Ben Reeves just off of Scott Cashkett. I would drop, and this might be controversial among some Gills fans, it might be very understandable amongst others. I'd drop Mika Mandron. I know saying dropping our top scorer in the current climate is no great shakes when he's got 2. I just think we need a different approach. I think we've become sort of over-reliant on going a bit direct a bit early. So I think if we go with players that can stretch things and get in behind it, it might do that essentially, stretch you and hopefully we're getting behind and cause more of a threat. But I'm sure it'd be completely different. I've not written one down because it gets quite boring saying Gillingham nil every week. But what's your dreaded score prediction, Matt, Mike, before I let you go?
Let's say 2-1 something. It won't be the 5-5 goal fest. That was a joke. I'm pretty
sure it won't be 5-5.
If anyone puts any money on that, you're a fool.
I keep saying we're all right defensively. So for me, I think it's 0-0 or 1-0 either way again. And that's maybe if I just keep saying it enough, it'll eventually happen and we might win a football match. But I can't see it being a goal fest. I'll
say you score early and then as a complete change of fortune for us, we score 2 goals late on to nick it. So you will go away. You were happy for a little while and then you go away miserable.
It's snatched away at the death.
And you were going to get Isaac, I heard as well, Isaac Alafe.
Well, there was talk we was in for him because obviously there's the Millwall link with Neil Harris, but I'm not sure whether it was ever. Like I said to you, I think the other day, I think if it was ever going to go anywhere in League Two, he'd have gone back to Sutton. You'd have been in prime position to do it. He knows the club, you know him, and he's done well for you. But I'm not sure whether we were in. There was a couple of stories coming out of Millwall's press that he was going on loan, but then I think they changed their mind because they couldn't get a forward in.
Yeah,
So
I think
the one I know we was in for though was Aaron Pierre.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Was,
Oh that yeah. I remember
we were
that upsetting you guys.
desperate for a experienced centre half.
He came in and he said something that is very, very un-Sutton like, and it did. Well, I had to rewind the interview. So after the Leyton Orient loss in the Pizza Cup, he started talking about, yeah, I've come in to push in for a playoff spot. And we're like, excuse me, what are you on about, young man? No. You talk about 50 points. Come on.
We get to 50 points and then we go again.
Yeah, what's wrong? You've clearly not read what you're supposed to say.
Nothing wrong with ambition.
No, absolutely. It's just a strange one for us. We're still kind of enjoying this ride.
Of course.
Not really sure what's going on in this whole league business. So we're loving it. We're loving it.
That's it. Just enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah. Mike, it's been a real pleasure, mate. I really appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
Gills fans, like I've said, go and check out Mike. Go and check out the podcast. You'll get hopefully a Sutton perspective their end as well on that pod. Get commenting down below whether you're a Gills fan or a Sutton fan. Let us know what you think your team will be. Let us know what you think the score prediction will be. Sutton fans, if you're watching, if you are going to beat us, at least predict that we'll score a goal. That'd be great. You have to laugh, otherwise you cry. Please keep liking, please keep subscribing. It is really appreciated, and I say that all the time, that it is still really weird that people are willing to listen to me talk about football, but it doesn't go unnoticed. I'll be back Saturday, myself and Boz and whoever else comes and says hello for the match day live. Desperately trying to bring you a goal. And then I shall be back over the weekend recording with Reese from German Gills to look back on the fixture. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week and up the Gills.